Hi, LACMA's first graders. Can you believe we are at the end of the year? Time has gone by so quickly. And I have to say, there is no place that I'd rather be than in the classroom with you. But I am, and the whole first grade team is super thankful that you have had the opportunity to have one-on-one instruction with parents and family members. Thank you so much, parents and family members, for putting in all of the time that you did learning alongside your student. I know that one benefit of this time is that all of our students receive that one-on-one instruction. So thank you. That is so appreciated. Now it's time to put all of that learning into one final project called the Wonder Project. We're excited for students to be able to show us what they know. And I know that many of you have already looked at the lesson that Mrs. Faddis delivered. If you haven't, do take a look at that lesson prior to trying to complete the Wonder Project. However, I want you to also, when you watch that lesson, to think about spending the majority of the week doing those things that she's asked you to do, which are picking a fantastic wonder or question, and then researching that wonder or question, not just for an answer, but also to become an expert. After you are all done thoroughly researching, then you will be able to jump into doing the Wonder Project so much more easily than if you try to do them even at the same time. That would be my number one suggestion. However, I do think you should watch my lesson right now all the way through to the end so that you know sort of what's expected out of the Wonder Project. So while you're reading and researching, you can keep in mind what the end result is going to become. So speaking of the Wonder Project, here is one example of potentially what you could choose to create to show what you know. This is a presentation board of sorts. You could also create a presentation board, but in a smaller fashion, maybe a half of a piece of paper, or even on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You could instead choose, rather than a presentation board, you could choose to do another teaching book. Both of those ideas would satisfy and would be able to satisfy, I should say, mediums that you could fulfill the criteria of the Wonder Project just fine. Speaking of, what does the Wonder Project all include? On the Seesaw assignment, I've attached the following templates. I've attached the Wonder Project checklist, I've attached the My Writing Editing checklist, and I've attached a picture of this Wonder Project right here, this presentation board. So you can kind of have an idea of what one might look like. And again, this is just one possibility. So I am going to just very quickly talk through the expectations for the Wonder Project. So in other words, the requirements to meet a score of a 3 on the Wonder Project. But more so just the requirements that would really show what your students have learned in reading and writing this learning trimester. Okay, so the first thing is the Wonder Project requires you to write a question. Now that question was one of those that you selected over the course of the last few weeks when you were collecting, was one of those that you selected that you wanted to research. So you probably or should already have that question. You just need to find a space that you will display that question. It could be displayed at the top of a presentation board, or if you're writing a teaching book, it might be the heading of the teaching book. Then you will write a topic sentence as an introduction to answer your question. If you want to make your introduction also have a hook, as we learned in the prior lesson, that would be completely fantastic. But the expectation for a first grader is that they just have a topic sentence as an introduction. And I included examples along with the criteria as you read through the checklist. So for example, this topic sentence that I included was crocodiles and alligators have a lot of differences. And you can see that here on this example project, that was the first sentence in the student's writing because it's the introduction or the very first part of the writing. Next, you will have to have an answer to your question. So this example is, one difference is a crocodile's snout is U-shaped while an alligator's snout is V-shaped. That again now is included in the writing to follow the introduction or in the body of the writing. The next part that you will want to work on collecting and then putting into your project, that is details. It says there are two options to include details. You can either write details to strengthen your writing, or you can add a text feature. Now let me show you what I mean by that. In this case, when the student answered the question that the difference between a crocodile's and alligators are the shape of their snout, then the student went on to further describe how the shape of their snouts allows you to see a crocodile's teeth, but you can't see an alligator's teeth. So in this case, this example, the student used writing to strengthen their answer or to add a detail, and they used a twin sentence. They also included the detail of a text feature. They drew an illustration, and they labeled the alligator and the crocodile, and then they wrote a caption. And the caption says, crocodiles can't hide their teeth, but alligators can. So there are two different ways that students, you can include details. You can add twin sentences, comparisons, examples, or in your actual writing, or you can add a text feature like a photograph or an illustration with a caption or labels. So that lends itself to a little more creativity on your part. What will teach your reader in the best way so they can learn not just the question and answer, but some strengthening information. So the next thing that you would want to check off is that you wrote a conclusion. And in this case, the example says, I hope you enjoyed learning about the differences between crocodiles and alligators. If you wanted to extend that conclusion, again, just like the prior lesson, you could tell your audience how they could learn more, what their next steps would be. But summarizing what they learned is the standard that we're looking for first graders to be able to accomplish. So first graders, let me go over this with you again so that I know you too can have the biggest part in completing this project. You will need your question. You will need your topic sentence. You will need to write an answer to your question. You will need details to strengthen your writing, and then you will need a conclusion to sum it all up. So think of it this way. Question, topic sentence. You will need the answer, details to strengthen your writing, and the conclusion to sum it all up. Now, after you are done with that writing, which again, it could look like this on a presentation board, or this could be put together as a teaching book in just the same way. So you'll want to pick whichever format or medium feels good to you. Now, whenever you are done coming up with your plan for all of these criteria, then you will, I would say after you talk about it and plan, you maybe draft a first draft. Then you will put it into your final published form, and you would want to use your writing editing checklist to make sure that it looks first grade ready. Have you followed the conventions that first graders should be able to show that they know by the end of first grade? So you'll want to, it says, I wrote using my best handwriting and used spaces. So you'll want to put spaces between your words. I used capital letters at the beginning of each sentence. I wrote complete sentences. I used a punctuation mark at the end of each sentence. My piece has a beginning, middle, and end, which if you use the checklist, that will happen automatically. I stayed on topic. I tried my best when spelling my words, and I did my very best and am ready to publish. So this will help guide you for what your end results should look like. So a little bit of final thoughts. Final thoughts, I say the top 3 final thoughts that are going through my mind for both first graders and parents. For parents, I know that this project is going to require you to help guide students the right direction. And I just want to thank you in advance. Thank you so, so much. Know that you have this entire week and then the entire next week too. And we are not reassigning more reading or writing that is necessarily required to be completed, okay? And I appreciate your guidance. Please do guide your students in researching as much as they can and in helping them walk through these checklists. That would have been our main job as teachers, just to help them to be able to figure out what they need to have on their project and how to organize it. And then how to use a checklist in general, how to check that they have that piece and check it off. So thank you in advance for helping guide them through this project. Thank you for helping make sure they find adequate research materials. Thank you for helping them to see that they have all the necessary parts and how to check them off as they go. And fourth, parents, thank you also for helping them to kind of use that process of talking through their idea, drafting a quick plan, quick plan, and then seeing it through to the publishing stage. And I know this is a lot. So piece by piece is completely fine. Students, the top 3 things I want you to think about is number 1, to really effort your greatest effort at being able to do those parts that you know you can do. You know you can ask and answer questions. So I want you to find that question and I want you to find that answer. You know that you can pick out those details that will tell readers great information about your topic. And then finally, I know that you know what your best handwriting is, what spaces looks like, what it is to use all your spelling strategies to spell your very best. So you take that on. So you take on asking that question. You take on finding an answer and some other teaching details. And you take on using your best handwriting, spaces, and spelling. I am really thankful that you all have each other and that you've been so positive for not only the first grade teachers, but for your child and the whole of Lacamas. And for that, it has been such a great positive experience teaching from home. Missing your kids has been, the greatest hardship. But thank you so much. And I truly can't wait to see the projects that you create. I am really excited. And that's all for now.